So when I just began graduate school, I had been an agnostic for almost a decade, but never an atheist. There were two commitments that I just couldn't really get away from. One was that I was completely convinced that I had a free will, that I could make choices. And the other one, that morals are real, that there are things that are good and there are things that are bad, and it matters. And it doesn't matter if 99% of the Earth's population would vote the other way, they would be wrong. And that means there is some standard outside of us, as well as there is something that doesn't follow the laws of nature. So those are two commitments that I entered into what became my spiritual journey. In my early grad school years, I found myself a Sunday picking up Mere Christianity, which had just arrived from Amazon. Why exactly I had ordered it, I'm not entirely sure, but it was there, and I started reading it. And for those of you who have read it, the first few chapters are really about this sort of general commitment to morality, and I felt quite comfortable reading those chapters. It was really just confirming what I already believed in a more eloquent way. But then he starts talking about the specific God of the Bible and about Jesus, and I find myself still agreeing, but now in a somewhat more disconcerted way. And the things I remember very vividly is just that I couldn't sit still. That there was just this sort of energy like going through my body that I felt that if I continued to agree to this, my life was going to change. And the amazing thing looking back on it is that I just mainly felt happy about it. That it was a little bit scary, but mostly it was just joyful. And that made for a very strange day. I think Lewis is really quite masterful in making sense out of Christianity and in really sort of leading you on. And so I guess the backstory to me reading Mere Christianity is that I had read one of his other books, which was even more sort of non-Christian, even though I think it does prepare you to accept the Christian message. And I think he does something quite similar in Mere Christianity, that he leads you through a few chapters, which I think most people actually agree with if they think through them. I think even people who claim they are relativists rarely are. At least they don't live as if they were. And what's amazing about Lewis is that he shows you, like, well, if you have accepted this, then this next step kind of makes sense. And if that step makes sense, then a third one does it well. At that point, you're pretty much at the incarnation, which what to do beyond accepting it if you accept the logic leading you there. Reading Mere Christianity or completing Mere Christianity in this faithful Sunday ended up taking me into the Anglican Church. I didn't know very much about being a Christian, but I did know you were supposed to go to church, and the Anglican Church seemed to be the most reasonable one, for lack of a better word, that I had access to in the Netherlands, where I was living at the time. I was a very happy Anglican for about a year. I mean, it was an amazing year to be in church for the first time and getting the gospel and getting just Christianity. And then I got the second book, and this time it was J.K. Chesterton's Orthodoxy. And I read that book again in a single day, again with a lot of energy and realization that I buy this argument. I believe what is stated on these pages. But it was a much quieter kind of realization. It was a realization of that, okay, this is the kind of Christian that I am, or at least want to become. That this is the kind of Christianity that has been attracting me all along. And only now do I actually recognize what it is that is attracting me. So in some sense, it both clarified why I was a Christian in the first place, but then it did sow the thought that I probably would be a Catholic Christian one day. So C.S. Lewis is the reason, at least in sort of instrumental way, why I became a Christian in the first place. J.K. Chesterton got me started towards the Catholic Church. But while C.S. Lewis, that message was so strong that I felt a very strong need to join a church that day, reading Chesterton was a much quieter pull into the Catholic Church. And it took me many years to then actually enter into the Catholic Church. And one of the things that sort of completed that attraction was finally attending a Catholic Mass and feeling a great sense of home. So I'd had intellectual arguments laid out and had accepted them already, but then there was also that spiritual attraction that was the final straw to pull me in.